Hi everyone and welcome to this session. Today I'll be walking you through Cavisson service virtualization. Service virtualization allows you to create service using several ways, like using user input, using request response pair, using a WSDL, or using a webinar. Well, many a times what happen is your backend system are under development, and in such cases you don't have a way to record the communication with such systems. However, you have request and responses of these systems. So in such cases, creating a service using request response pair becomes very useful. So today I'm gonna tell you how easy and quick is to create a service in Cavisson suite using request response pair. So let's begin. Here I am logged into one of the Cavisson server. Since today's session is about virtualization, so we'll go to service virtualization here from the top panel. This takes you to this screen. On the left hand panel, under services, you have add services using RRPair. This takes you to this configuration screen. Now from here, you can create service in just 3 simple steps. Let's see how. First step is to select the pairs. Now you can select the pairs using files, or in case you have multiple pairs in a directory, so you can use using directory. In this demo, I am selecting using files. For that, click on choose RRPair. Then from here, I am selecting this pair with get account summary. And as I select, the selected pairs are shown here in the box. Now step 2 is to upload these pairs. For that, just have to click on upload. Once uploaded, the pair can be seen in the table below, and the request and response of that pair can be visualized in the below section. Okay. So here, as you can see, there is a request for account summary where the request login name is going. Here in this case it is table. The request type, which is account summary, and then there is a associate number which is going in the request. Okay. And in the response, the details of that associate is coming, which is basically the associate number. Whatever is there in the request, it is sent back in the response. And then there are details around the bank account. Okay, so there is a account type deposit, then there is another account type which is fixed, then there is another one savings, and then there are few more details around the account like credit card, its balance, and other things. Okay, now step 3 is to create the service. But before we do that, let me tell you a few more options on the screen. This reset is to reset the data in the table below. So in case you want to redo the selection, you can simply do it by clicking on reset. The next is filter. Filter basically enables the column filter in this table. As you can see here, there is a filter for each of the column as enabled over here. Okay, so you can do a search at the URL or service name or the request file name or response file. Okay. Now let's create the service, which is step 3. Now there are 2 options. One is to create service, which will basically create the service, but it will not enable it in the system. Okay, it will be in inactive state. The second option is to create an activate service, which will not only create the service but also activate it or enable it into the system. Okay. Now let's click on create and activate service. Now as it do so, once it is done, it will take you back on this service list screen. Okay, and here you can see that your service is created with the name get account summary and your point URL, which was basically the request line from your request file. Then the two templates are created under it. Last modified is by the time, last updated by the user who has created it. Okay, and then there are a few more options around it. Now let's see what is there inside this service. Now here you can see the details around the service, like service name, endpoint URL, and then the template details. Now in this there are two templates which are created. One is the account summary and another is the SOAP form. Okay. SOAP form is basically a default template which will be served in case no conditions are matched with the other templates. Okay. Now let's go inside account summary. So this tells you the details around the template, as in the template name, which is account summary in this case. Content type, you can change or select the content type which you want to send in the response. Then we have the response status code, which is 200 in this case. And then there are few more settings which you can configure for this template. Like you can add some header, or you can add a service time, which is a delay to this template. You can also enable the trace level, and then you can also add a content length into it. Okay. Next is the template mode, which is of two types: simulate and format. In case of simulate, the response is served from the service, from the response that is created, whereas in case of forward, the requests are forwarded to some other endpoint. Okay. Then we have the template status, which is active, and then there are a few more controls around the template. And in the section, lower section, you can see the response template and the sample request with which this service is created. Okay. Now before going into the details of it, let's go back to the pair with which we have created this service. Okay. So the request was a get account summary, and in the request the URI is the account service fetch summary, which is basically fetching the summary of the account. Now in the request we see there is a request login, the name of the account holder, then the request type, which is account summary, user account name, which is David, and an associate number which starts with 74932280. Okay. So basically this is a request which is to fetch the account summary of this account holder David with an associate number this. Okay. Now let's look at in the response. In the response we get the account summary, the associate number, which is what we have in the request, the account name, again whatever is there in the request is sent, is in the response, David, and then there are details around its account, different type of account, which is in this case is a deposit account, a fixed account, a saving account, and there is an information about the credit card also. Okay, so there are two parameters in the request, David and the associate number, which are there in the response. Okay. Now let's go back in the response template and see what we have over here. Now here in this response template you can see the associate number. The associate number is replaced with the parameter. As you can see here in the curly braces, there is a parameter which is like envelope body, account summary, request for associate number. Okay. Similarly, the account name, which was David originally in the response, is replaced with this envelope body, account summary, request message, header area, request number. So here is the catch. So what we see here is, once the service is created, okay, it is doing an auto correlation. Okay, so there is a concept over here which we call as auto correlation. Auto correlation is basically doing an intersection of the request and the response, and whatever matches in the response with the request is discovered and is replaced by the parameter. Like here in this case, the associate number which was there in the request, like 7493228807, and here also in the response the same number is returned back, right? And then there was an account name David which is also returned back in the response. So both these parameters, both these values are matching with the request, so these values are replaced with parameter, these two parameters. Okay, so basically it is doing an auto correlation. Okay. Now once this service is created, we have another capability using which you can test this service. Okay, so let's do that. So for that, you can select the service you want to test, and on the top right panel there is an option of test. So you can select this and it takes you to this test service screen. Now from here you can do a quick test and see whether your service is working fine or not. So the sample request is the request with which the service is created. So let me do a test over here. Okay, so what it has returned me is the associate number, the account name, and then its detail. Okay, so here in this request I have the request login as David and the associate number as 7493228807, which is what is written in the response. Okay, now let me change the login name as Anjali and the associate number as 7493228807 7322808. And now let's do a test and see what comes back in the response. Okay, so in the response I could see the associate number is changed to 808, which is what we have sent in the request, and the name which was changed from David to Anjali is now changed in the response also to Anjali. So basically whatever is sent in the request is sent back to you in the response. So this is how the autocorrelation works. That's how, using 3 simple steps, you can create a service from request response pair. That's all for today's session. Have a nice day.